Freedom. Open up your mind. You have your roots. Freedom. Freedom. I like this. Do you have your boots? What does it mean to you? Do you have your boots? Do you have your boots? I like this. Get into the new. Alright.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Meg from Freedom for All. We would like to welcome you to join our show this evening at 7 p.m. as we welcome Tamika Shannon, mother of Fred Cox, who was tragically and brutally killed in a church in High Point, North Carolina on November 8th, 2020. We stand with this family as they still fight for justice for Fred. We ask that you join us to celebrate his life and legacy tonight, 7 p.m. You don't want to miss it. Thank you.
Said, you are a seed. The roots they planted were built to last. No fire, flood, or fury can make them pass. You have the power they want to ask. You have so much, that seed is up to the task. If you're sick and tired, just take a leap. You may just find the energy. If they tell you no, don't take a seat. I can't stress enough. You are a seed. They clip your vines, you grow some meat. They come with fire, you are the heat. She sent you fury, truth, knowledge, purpose, confidence, passion.
Greetings and good vibes, everybody. It's your girl Meg with my guy John Tell. It's Sunday evening. It's 7:20, and we are going to jump in it. We have a special guest tonight that we are super excited to welcome, and we thank you so much, Miss Tamika Shannon. She's the mother of Fred Cox. Thank you so much for joining us, Tamika. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure. As soon as I seen your son's story, it made so much sense to talk about it because this is one of the subjects that I'm so passionate about is police brutality and misconduct and things that happen that lead up to and even after, these points and incidences that, have still yet to have, charges filed. And it's sickening and disheartening. And John Tell, how you doing tonight?
I can't complain. I'm breathing. I'm here. Fighting another day. It is what it is. Thank you for having me as usual, Meg. Greetings and good vibes. And Ms. Shannon, Tanika, thank you for being on the show today. It means a lot. And it is also important that people hear your testimony and your story and people know more about Fred Cox because Fred Cox's life did matter.
100%. And just to give people a little Backstory with me, I'm an investigative reporter, and I'm here to expose the hard truths that officials work tirelessly to hide from us. It's time to shed light and provide a way for citizens to take their lives back because we demand freedom for all. We cover cases like police brutality, incidences of racism, world issues, and news, when we provide resources and the tools for citizens to know their rights and more. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube and listen and watch us on the daily. Search the Leon Block Independent Media or just search Freedom for All. So, all right, guys, we are here on this Sunday evening to welcome Miss Tanika Shannon, mother of Fred Cox, and we're just going to jump right to it. On November 8th, 2020, Fred was attending a funeral of a young man that had passed away, and there was a detective there that reportedly, I read, now you correct me if I'm wrong, was asked to be there by the family of the deceased person that was holding the funeral. Is that correct?
Yes, from what I understand, he was invited. But then I understood that he was just there as part of the ongoing investigation of the murder of Jonas Thompson. I think Thomas or Thompson is his last name. So I still don't even know the truth about why the detective was there or if he was invited or whatever.
Wow. And so very little answers, which is sadly something that we are continuously hearing that these families are, facing. And that's why it's so important for us all to come together, use whatever platform that we have available, and shout the fucking truth. Excuse my language, but this is ridiculous. Your son's life mattered. He was 18 years old. Do you just want to tell us a little bit about your son and how he was as a person and his accomplishments? Like, I want to know, the good things. The media always paints pictures before the family. So we want to paint the real picture, honey. That's why we brought you here.
And I really appreciate you. I can go on for days about who Fred truly is. And as you stated, the media will try to dehumanize them as a person. But Fred was a giving person. Fred had the smile that would light up the darkest room. Fred was athletic. He played football. He played basketball, baseball. He was just a generally nice guy. He loved those that loved him. And sometimes we even found that he still loved those that did not love him, which was strange for me. Not perfect, but phenomenal.
Yes.
My baby, he was well-mannered, He was one of the kids that said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. I would randomly get messages from people telling me that they seen Fred at the store and he helped them get their groceries in the car. He held the door for them. He was a good dude. He had a heart of gold.
Yes, it seemed like he was such a gentleman. Like you could tell by the photos, and his smile would light up a room. Like you can just tell, I was going through all your photos, and it's so sad. Like, so where, like, do you live in the same city that this happened in, or was he raised somewhere else?
Nope, he was born and raised right here in High Point, North Carolina, and we are well-known people, but by good things. So we have been here all our lives.
Wow. And so you're natives, of the city. And so how has the police responded? Like, how did you find out, what happened? And
I was actually on my way to get dinner. Fred, we did dinner on Sundays, and one of our favorite restaurants was a restaurant called Stephanie's. And I was at exit 220 in Greensboro when I got the call from my best friend.
wow.
But it also makes me think on the drive there, when we were almost there, I kind of laid back in the seat of the car and I just my heart felt so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
That mother's intuition kicked in instantly. And I text Fred and said, hey, just checking on you. I had no
Wow.
idea what was going on. 5 minutes later, I get the call from my best friend. She said, Tanika Fred got shot. He got shot. And I'm like, what? He had a funeral? That can't be the case. She was like, yes, where are you? I said, I'm in Greensboro at exit 220 going to Stephanie's. She said, no, I need for you to get to High Point.
Wow.
I did everything in my power to calm down
Mm-hmm.
because I knew it was going to take me too long to get to my baby.
Right.
So I called my niece, Raquanda. I said, Fred just got shot. Please go to the hospital. I said, I'm in Greensboro. I'm turning around right now. I'm on my way. I called my mama, like, go to the hospital. I'm on my way. They get to the hospital. It's no Fred.
Wow.
So my best friend called me right back and she was crying and she was just shaking her head. And I said, Tamika, I am on my way to this hospital. Don't call me telling me nothing crazy about my baby.
Right.
And then my niece called me. She said, Fred didn't get shot. He not at no hospital. Then another good friend called and she said, Tanika, I'm not getting off this phone with you until you make it back to High Point. And I don't even remember getting back.
Right.
Wow.
My niece called back. She said, no, he did get shot. He is at the church. So definitely confused. I blanked out. I didn't even remember pulling up at the church. I just remember when I came to, my head was like in my hand and I was shaking really, really bad.
Wow.
And then I remember my cousin, his godmother, Melody Smith, called me. Her cry out was so distinct. Sometimes I could just close my eyes and just hear her screaming, screaming, and screaming.
Mm.
And I just remember telling her, don't call my phone with that. Nothing has happened to my baby.
Wow.
I was in denial.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then I remember getting out the car and it's a long field to walk to the church. And then I saw police everywhere, ambulance. And I got closer to the church. And I remember just falling. And I stood, my family and I, we stood out there for countless hours.
Wow.
Every bit of 8 hours.
And they made you wait.
They made me wait. And we would randomly go over there and ask them, like, is that Fred? Is that Fred Cox? And they was like, the body hadn't been identified. They was very rude.
What?
Yes.
Did you happen to get badge numbers on? I mean, I'm sure like
I didn't.
there was so much, we could actually get that from an incident report. They should be able to identify the officers that was on scene that dealt with any of you guys.
Yeah, and I remember telling one of the officers that had big guns drawn. They wouldn't let me get close. And I said, Fred is very cold natured. I said, if that's my baby, could you just cover him up?
Mm-hmm.
Can you please get him off the ground?
Right. Show
it's cold out.
Right.
Respect.
I said, he always wear 2 pair of socks because he's always cold. Can you just get him off the ground? And they kept telling me, they hadn't identified the body and
wow.
Let me see him. And it had to be like 9 o'clock. the chaplain and the detectives came and called me over and said, we have identified the body, and it's the body of Fred Cox. And I remember asking him, how do you know that's my baby? I need to see him.
Right. Why wouldn't have you, being next of kin, been the one to identify your son? That is such a lack of humanity. That is disgusting.
Yeah, I couldn't identify. I did not see my baby until he was at the funeral home and dressed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I asked him, I said, please just let me see him
right. You have that right.
so that I know that it's my baby. Even though, I knew, but I didn't know.
Right.
Right.
And they was like, no, we identified him, I guess, through fingerprints. I don't know. And they never let me see my baby.
Wow. That is, it's sadly like a story again that we hear continuously over and over. It's the lack of support that these families are given. It's a lack of compassion. It's a lack of humanity. It's a lack of decency.
Yes.
Like this, I am so sorry from the bottom of my heart that this happened to you.
Thank you.
And his life mattered. He was at a funeral. He was 18 years old. He was a football player. He had a smile that would light a room. What is their justification for causation whenever do you talk to any detectives after this point? What do they say to you? Because I just feel like it's already going to be bullshit, to be honest.
It very much. It took them 10 days to tell me that Fred was murdered by an officer. For 10 days, they led me to believe that my baby was murdered by this gunfires from a gang.
What?
Oh my goodness.
Like retaliation for the person that they were having the funeral for.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So 10 days, you don't know what happened to your 18-year-old son. And then they come forward and they say that he was shot by an officer. When did you find out that the officer was from another county?
So I was called to the precinct every day for 10 days, except for the day of the funeral. And Detective Knight, he was trying his best for me to tell him something that I couldn't, like I didn't know.
Right.
He asked me about gangs.
They wanted you to incriminate your son.
About
and I told him, Fred was a people person. If he was gang affiliated, his mama don't know.
Right.
For 10 days, I went to this precinct almost every day.
And they interrogated you.
And I felt like Fred had murdered somebody.
Wow.
And on day number 10, we went in the precinct, and Detective Knight and this other detective, they brought me in. They was laughing. We were casually talking.
Wow.
Because they promised me that they was going to find these gang shooters that killed
my wow. Baby. And they knew the whole time that it was a detective.
Yes.
Wow. So they in my opinion, as a investigative reporter and working these cases, Officer Knight, Detective Knight needs to be fired because he lied to you at the worst time of your life.
Talk about it.
And whoever was the other officer that was working with him whenever he was interrogated, he needs to be fired as well.
I agree.
Because that is crazy. They tried to whirlwind you to defame your dead child that's 18 years old, try to make you believe and, swirl the situation. Oh, it could have been gang violence. Was he in the gang? No, he was not in a gang. He was at a funeral. He was in a church.
And you know what? Even if he was in a gang, that doesn't matter. He was still a life. It doesn't matter who was in a gang. There's still a life that mattered. And
he did not deserve to be shot.
Right.
Yeah. That is... And you can tell, like, a picture is worth a million words. We always, go by that. It's not always a good thing, but, in some cases, you can tell by looking at your son that he was not in a gang. I'm sorry, but it like, I'm just speaking the truth, which is what this show is about. He definitely looked like a good kid. He played football. You know, he was super happy. I've not ever seen no gang signs. Like, for them to say that about your son is disheartening as hell. Like, how dare them?
And as Pressure just said, the gang is 12. The gang are the pigs.
100%.
And we talk about police gangs here on the show all the time. It's proven that there are police gangs within the ranks. We know this. The biggest gang, yes.
The biggest gang in America, organized crime, is inside police departments and inside the prisons. That is the biggest gangs. For the prisons, there's, you know, shareholders, that there's investors, even the sharks, you know, are pets. For police gangs, you know, if you look at the Banditos in Los Angeles, they are listed on tons of civil lawsuits throughout. They have covered, Tango 22 in Akron. You know, they have these specialized like tattoos everywhere, you know, like certain places on their bodies that match. That's how you're supposed to be able to identify them. So now it's making me, now there's Tango 88. Thank you, Chaz, in Omaha, Nebraska. We're actually keeping a list of these police gangs. So now you have me very curious, Mr. Chaz Neal, I know you're listening. That's my other investigator, that he's absolutely amazing. Let's find out what's going on in North Carolina, because that could be definitely used to their benefit in the civil litigation. Because that is insane. Somebody slipped somewhere. Somebody's had a civil lawsuit prior and listed. Like, that's how we always find out our information, is prior civil lawsuits. They always hold like the best juicy gossip to, you know, per se, and talks about this kind of stuff. So now, was there any reprimand? Who was the person that you found out was the shooter that killed your son?
Michael Shane Hill, that was out of his jurisdiction. He was from a different county. So on day 10, when I went into the precinct, when they announced that it was the service weapon of an officer, they would not give me a name. They did not tell me that he was from Davidson County. They would not tell me anything about this detective.
Of course, protect the blue, the code of silence.
I went home so confused. Like, who is this man? Like, I just total confused, because they wouldn't give any information about this man. None.
Wow.
And then the Detective Knight, he tried to make me believe that Fred was shooting at that church that day. He said, no, your son, he was shooting out there too. From our understanding, he was returning gunfire. I was like, Fred?
Wow. They wanted to paint the picture that he was a young gang member.
But I knew.
Right, of course.
I knew that my baby wouldn't take a gun inside the church.
Right.
My heart would not accept what they were trying to tell me. He told me there were several shell casings behind my car. First, he said Fred was behind my car shooting back at these people that were shooting. And I kept telling him, no, that's not true. Fred didn't do nothing like that. But he tried his best to bed it in my head.
Right, to maybe he possibly could have. And then all they wanted you to do was say it so they could run with it.
Yep. But I know my baby.
Right. Yes, Mama, talk about it.
I know my baby.
Right.
And he was raised in church.
So he's not going to disrespect God like that.
He knew. He knew. He knew better.
Right.
He knew better. Fred was baptized. Fred went up and got saved at church. Not even
asking. So he was raised in the church.
He was a churchy boy.
Wow. Yeah.
Tell me about your get-togethers on Sundays.
What do you mean?
What was it like? What do you remember? What do you like to
Oh,
remember
okay.
most? The good things about the Sundays that y'all spent together, you know?
Sundays was our relaxed day, because I work all week. I own a business.
Hmm.
So Sundays was our relaxed day. We would either get dinner out or he would make me cook a fajita or something. I hate cooking. But that was our chill day. That was our day. We mainly just lay back at home. And we had a habit of texting each other. I would be in my room, he would be in his room, and we would text each other from room to room. It was our time.
Right.
Yeah.
It was our day, our time. Sundays was dedicated to us.
Yes, and there's nothing better than mama's home cooking for sure. So I definitely I'm all about it.
Yes. Yes,
and
he loved home cooked meals.
and you said, was he playing football? Was he still in high school whenever this happened, or had he graduated?
He had just graduated in June,
Oh wow.
and he was supposed to leave that Tuesday to fly out to um California because he was looking to start his clothing line.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, has his clothes been like, do you have these like drawings or ideas? No?
When I left the apartment we stayed in, I left everything.
I get it.
Everything but his bedroom suit.
Understand.
I didn't take any furniture. I sold most of my stuff via Facebook. I just didn't want nothing.
Yeah. That's a,
Nothing.
that's a horrible reminder that, and you still don't have justice. These officers like are still working the streets, and let's remember, everybody, their job, sworn duty is to protect and serve.
Yeah.
Where were they protecting and serving November 8th, 2020? It seems like they were protecting and serving themselves.
Basically. And the sadder thing is Fred was in his car with the car crunk. He was ready to leave. And he saw Miss Vivian, she's the owner of the funeral home, who was holding the service. She said she had just walked up to my car, closed my door, and was just telling Fred how proud she is of him. He's not in the streets.
Mm.
And she said then she heard the gunfire. She said Fred jumped. She said, I don't know how Fred got out of his car so fast. She said, but Fred was telling her, y'all, come on. They're shooting.
Wow.
So he held the door open for Vivian and her 12-year-old then son.
Wow.
He was holding the door open for them.
He saved their life that day.
As he took the bullets. And it was such reckless shooting.
Right.
The 12-year-old was grazed in the hand by one of the bullets.
Wow. So not only is Fred, passed away at this point, you also endangered a 12-year-old child. And I'm sure there was never any charges brought up on the officer regarding that either.
Nope. And like I said, for 10 days, I had no idea who killed my baby.
Right.
And I didn't even know that he held the door for Vivian and her son to make sure that they got in the church for safety. But at my son's funeral, I remember Vivian getting up and she said, I need to read a letter. And I was thinking, a letter? Okay.
Right.
She read a letter that her 12-year-old son wrote on his own free will.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was so heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically, he told us somebody was chasing them.
Wow.
And he said he felt that it was his fault because they had not been out there playing. Fred would still be alive. Fred went to make sure he got in the church if he wasn't out there playing. So now I have a 12-year-old that is blaming himself for the death of my son.
Wow.
And in that letter, he asked me, he said, now that it was my fault that Fred is gone, and he was your only child, can I be your godson?
Aww.
Yes. And when I tell you, I love that little boy. And I remind him all the time, like,
it's not his fault.
It's not your fault.
Right.
Fred did what he did because he loved people.
Right.
It is not your fault.
Right.
And to this day, Tavares blames himself for Fred being dead.
Wow. Well, if he's listening tonight, don't ever think that, a horrible situation is your fault. It is definitely the government's, wrongdoing, and we demand answers. We demand charges. This officer, and along with the other officers that interrogated you, they need to be fired immediately. Charges need to be filed. And I truly believe, I love Ben Crump. I know some people have different thoughts about him, but I believe that he is the man that can get you guys justice. And, nothing can bring your son back. A compensatory amount does not bring your son back. That's just like a spit in the face. But what can bring your son back is reform and policy changes. And, for this guy to be charged with murder.
I was just about to say, Tanika, for viewers watching, how can they help support and bring awareness to Fred Cox and his story the way that you would like? What would you like for viewers to do?
Just share his story, share his name, say his name. You can also visit fclm.org, and he has the website. On the website, it will tell you upcoming events. It's a place to donate. About who Fred Cox is, pictures. Just help me get his name out so that we don't only fight for a handful of people.
Right.
We can fight for more. But 100%. The ones that's not as well known as the known.
Right. Exactly. They should all be equally, recognized, and, just there has to be some kind of justice for your family and support that's offered. And, it takes connecting through community. And whether, we be across the world, like, you are never alone. We are always a phone call away. If there's anything that we can do whatsoever, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, because his life did matter. He had his whole life ahead of him. And, this is a damn shame. Like, it's ridiculous. And I will scream from the mountaintops for as long as, this life continues, that justice be given for your son, because that's the least thing they can do for him at this point.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We went through a litigation, and my niece is actually on here as well, and she would tell you that I cried and I cried and I cried.
Right.
And I cried because I feel like I'm selling my son.
Right.
Like, okay, you took my son, now you pay me this money. It's so unfair.
Right. And, my dad was Pentecostal, or my dad was Southern Baptist, and my mom was Pentecostal. So I was raised like, there's fire and, brimstone, and there's power in the blood, an eye for an eye. So this person took your son, they need to go to jail. I hate the death penalty, but I really feel like this is what the death penalty was made for. It was officers that are supposed to be serving and protecting us that are really killing us.
Talk about it.
I totally agree. And I told detective within those 10 days that I was being interrogated, I said to Detective Knight, I said, whoever shot my son, I wish he would have killed them first. That man got so mad at me.
What?
He said,
Wow.
ever wish that Fred would have killed anybody. I said they killed him.
Right.
Right.
The
He
Bible talks about an eye for an eye.
Yep.
he was livid, but the whole time he knew it was one of his boys.
Right, of course. And they probably go to the bar together, or they hang out together, or they have some kind of like association because they all are in some way associated.
Mhm. Yep.
Wow. We demand justice for Fred Cox. Charge Michael Hill with his murder. And now, what was his cause and manner of death with the autopsy report?
Mm.
They said the fatal shot was to the neck.
And how many times was he shot?
4.
Wow.
But it's crazy because when Vivian explains it, she speaks on how the bullets was flying by her head. She could see the fire from the gun. Oh, it's terrible.
Wow. I mean, yeah, these people are directly not only your family and yourself, but like these people that he was saving their lives and doing them, a great blessing. They're now directly impacted forever and traumatized. And I'm sure they don't want to deal with the police. I wouldn't want to deal with the police.
None of us
Right.
do.
And
I'm
so
caught up.
are you still in High Point?
Yes.
Wow.
Until this case is over, I am here. But as soon as it's done, I'm done.
Right.
Totally feel you.
100%. And is this officer still a police officer or a detective?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Wow. We need to call everybody that's listening to this stream, whether it be a restream or on the live stream now. Let's get the police department's phone number. What police department was it that he works for?
County Police Department.
What was it again? Can you say it again? I'm sorry.
Davidson County Police Department.
Davidson County Police Department. Let's get that phone number. Everybody will share the phone number. Call that number and demand for Officer Hill to be fired immediately, to be charged with the death of Fred Cox. The only way that we can make a change is to demand the change. We have to come together. This is his mother's son. He was a great child. He was a baby, 18 years old. We demand he be fired and charged with Fred's murder.
Yes.
His life mattered. He also endangered a 12-year-old. What happened to that? If it was me or you driving a car and, they don't have their seatbelt on, that's endangering the welfare of a child. What's the justification for causation for this?
Go ahead, sis. Talk about it.
Like, we have to come together. We have to demand this man be charged. That's the only way. I'm not saying burn it down, but I'm saying raise hell, y'all. That's the only way we're going to get any freedom.
That's what I've been asking for.
Mm-hmm.
The same way High Point, North Carolina raised hell for George Floyd. Why are we not doing the same thing for Fred Cox?
Right.
Because I'm telling you, they shut down the main street here in the city.
You got me wanting to come to High Point, and I don't even travel like that.
They shut down the main street.
This has been 2 years now, and has there been any protest in the streets for Fred?
Pressure has.
Shout out to Pressure.
Yes, that's what's up, Pressure.
Phenomenal. Him and the foundation, they have led some good rallies. I will say that. Our very first rally, Ben Crump was here, and they started filming the documentary Civil that I'm in. So we have had some pretty good protests.
Yes, we gotta keep them going.
I want to note here, one of our other reporters, shout out to Chaz Neal, just sent us a link via Triad City Beats, stating that Officer Hill, Michael Shane Hill, was suspended and demoted in the past.
So he has a past of disciplinary or administrative is what they call it, disciplinary actions.
Yes,
now,
it's a whole timeline somebody put up.
So you know that you can submit right to know requests and request all of that information?
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you would be interested in me telling you how to do that, I would be more than happy. I will do it for you. Usually I don't want to say like my secrets of how I get it quickly and usually get all the information, but for whatever reason, a lot of the times the families are not given all of the information that you are entitled to. I had a family here in Lancaster, PA, that they wanted, the police shot and killed a young man that had schizophrenia. They wanted the family and the public to believe that he had not been on his medicine. And they gave the autopsy. They didn't give the talk screen. The talk screen I received, and I was actually able to give them that peace of mind to know that he did take his medicine, that he was on his medicine when they shot and killed him. And that family called for help for him. It was a mental health emergency. So I will definitely, I'm definitely interested. I can request that tomorrow. And we also, Jontel, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there's been a lot of comments, but we do have the police department's phone number. If we could post that on the screen.
336-242-2105. Charge murderer Michael Shane Hill for the murder of Fred Cox.
And that's all you have to say, y'all. Whenever you go to call, whenever you call that number, tell them you want to speak to a supervisor. You want to speak to a chief or the officer in charge. Whoever gets on the phone, just start raising hell. We demand a murder charge for Mr. Hill regarding Fred Cox's death. Easy as that. They don't want to get phone calls. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want to think that nobody knows about the situation.
And that's
guess
exactly
what?
why
We know.
Right.
So we're coming for you.
Yep.
Enough is enough. Like, that is insane. And Pressure says that he'll be back out on 703?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So we're going to keep going.
And there's a balloon release coming up as well. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct. It would actually be 2 years on Tuesday, and I'm in denial. Like, I can't believe it's been that long since I have not seen my baby, kissed him, heard his voice.
Right.
Can't believe it.
And you still have no answers.
But Tuesday will be 2 years. And we're doing a balloon release at 7/13. And it's a nationwide balloon release. His birthday is 7/13. And we'll be doing giveaways and just try to have some of a decent, happy day.
Right.
Remember him because he was very happy.
Yes, that smile. I'm telling you, you can just tell a lot by somebody's smile. And like, to die helping people, that brings a whole new level of respect and love. There's a lot of people that run towards, fire per se. There's a lot of people that run away. Thank God that you raised your son to run and help people, because there's very few and far people. Like, it comes very few and far between these days.
You're right.
And he saved that baby, and now you can forever have your godson, and that can be the love of Fred that lives on forever. He saved his life that day.
He did. And I was so angry with Fred. I was so hurt. Like, why? And he came to me in a dream and he said, I was ready and I did what you raised me to do.
Yes.
And ever since, I've been telling him, I'm very proud of the man you are. I cannot be mad. I can be proud.
Right.
Because I raised a true hero.
Right. 100%. A lot of people say that heroes, are in the army and, all of this stuff. Your son, in my eyes and in my definition, died a hero.
Yes.
He was putting other people's needs above his own and, showing compassion, showing love. And, that's the things that are unreplaceable.
You got that right. I mean, Fred, he just had a heart of gold. And I often tell people about, they thought he had a blood clot in his lungs. We was at the hospital. And they brought a homeless man in. It was cold and it was raining. And Fred said, Mom, they don't have no socks on that man or no shoes, and it's cold outside.
Oh,
My baby sat there, took his socks and his shoes off, and asked the officer could
wow.
he put his socks on that man's feet.
Wow. See, and that was what that's what this is all about, because they don't tell you that picture. They want to paint a horrible picture of
Right.
who they thought he was. This, brings and shines light on who he truly was, who his mama raised him to be, and who you're proud of, and who's a
Very
hero.
proud. I'm very proud of him. I miss him,
Yes,
but
of
I'm very
course.
proud.
Yes. And, every test has a testimony. And I'm so thankful and grateful that you shared it here, because it can save lives, and it can show layers of support that people aren't alone whenever they go through these horrible situations. I had done police officer involved shootings in PA for about a year now. And whenever I went into it, I wanted to bring people resources as far as like civil attorneys that would kick ass, mentors, counselors. Like, I wanted to have a slew of resources. And even though I felt at the time that I was prepared, holy cow, no, I was not prepared whatsoever to hear these stories of no compassion, lack of human decency.
Mhm.
Like, I've had people's families tell me I called the police for help. They shot and killed my son. And then they told me to call a cleanup crew.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
wow.
and there's an officer here in Pennsylvania that he shot and killed 4 people. He's a Pennsylvania state police officer, named Officer of the Year, but he shot and killed 4 people in his career.
Wow.
And, these are a lot of people don't like to talk about police officer involved shootings, but the only way that we can learn and arm ourselves with knowledge is if we talk about it, and we have these uncomfortable, vulnerable situations, but it's for the life of people like Fred. And a lot of times the mainstream media, they paint a picture, way before that's how people find out.
Yep.
Just like you said, when we were talking backstage, you found out about his autopsy being read on a news station before you, his mother, could even look at it.
Mhm.
Like, where is the decency? Where is the layers of support by the community, the love? Like,
It's
we gotta
none.
stick together.
It's none. And I didn't even know who, and still don't even know what the mayor of High Point, North Carolina looks like.
They've never
I have
called
not
you or
heard from
nothing.
anybody.
Wow.
Wow.
Did
Nope.
anybody from Davidson Police Department reach out? So
Nope.
it's just been mom is the word.
Wow.
They
Oh,
all
you-
knew.
We had a march, and the chief of police received an award. He walked right past me and wouldn't even speak to me. Wouldn't even acknowledge me.
You know what? My good brother told me something a while ago in a meeting. And John Tell, you're going to laugh at me whenever I say this. I want to know where the chief of police lives. I want to know where the mayor lives. And I want to sit outside their house and watch them walk by and act like nothing's happening. Because by golly, they're going to hear my mouth. And they should hear everybody else's that loves and cares for Fred. We are bothered. Like, we're citizens. We're paying citizens. You're a business owner. You're a well-educated woman. Like, who are these people? Like, these people are set in office by, like, we vote a lot of these people into office. And that's what people need to understand. The only way that we can have change is to come together and get these people out of office.
Get these people
That's
out. Right.
And even the district attorney, I've never met someone so rude and nonchalant in a higher position.
Who's the district attorney?
Avery Crump. I was calling the office because they had me in months, and I'm like, I need some answers. Like, what's going on? She called me back. She said, "Hello, I'm giving you a courtesy call."
What? Courtesy?
Wow.
What's a courtesy call? Yeah.
Wow. They killed your son, who was 18 years old, but she's going to do you a justice, and she's going to give you a courtesy call. How I was born and raised in Missouri. My courtesy to her would have been a skillet across the face.
Oh, I wanted to.
And then, but then at the same time, then it makes us look bad as mothers. Like that's what they want you to do. They want you to react.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that, it's great for somebody that, isn't connected to react that way. But
Right.
for your family and for, like they always want to paint the bad picture. So we can't give them no reason at all. But
No.
turn up, guys. Call the district attorney for North Carolina, Coward DA Avery Crump. She needs to step down. Or she, is it a he or she? So she needs to step down. I would give her a courtesy call. I would actually do that for you first thing in the morning. We could have a live courtesy call to Miss Crump.
Let's do it.
I'm John Tell. You already know.
We down. We down for the shits. Let's do it.
We'll go live tomorrow. We will call the police department and we will call the DA's office and we will demand charges be brought up against this officer and some kind of justice for your son. Whether that be them charging, firing, all of them. And I encourage every one of our listeners to do the same. They have got to answer to somebody and they got to answer to their constituents, their citizens. We are all citizens of the United States. Fuck them.
Right.
That's right.
In all capital letters.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all killers at this point. They're covering up a murder.
One is they all are.
Right. No
Period.
Justice, no peace.
No justice, no streets.
That's right.
Right. Let's go to where's the DA live? Where's the police chief live?
Seriously.
Chaz got me started.
Right. That's where the protest needs to be. Out of your homes and into the streets. And we need to hold these elected officials accountable. Thank you, Pressure. Again, 336-412-7600 for DA Avery Crump. Hold these people accountable.
They have
all
got
power
to
to the
us.
people, y'all.
When we all come together and we all call for the same name, same person we're asking for, they have got to make action. It just can't fall on deaf ears. You're one person. But whenever you get all of us across the board, across the nation, calling and demanding change, that's a movement. That's something they don't want to deal with. That's bad publicity to the police department, to the DA's office.
That's
Right.
Now
They
we're
don't
talking about them on a live podcast, telling the world what kind of bullshit they're covering up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that is exactly why we wanted you on the show, to talk about the life of Fred, who he was, that he was a hero, that this kind of unjust system has got to change. And the only way that it can change is if we all come together.
That's right.
And I always explain to people, like, it could have been your child. Stand with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could be yours next.
Yes. And if we don't stand together behind you in support of you and your child, who's going to stand behind us?
That's right.
Like, you got to do unto others as you want done unto you. And
That's
this is the perfect time to act in that. It's easy to talk about something. Let's do it.
Be about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Don't talk about it. Be about it. We ain't new to this. We're true to this.
Okay. I love it.
Yes. So tomorrow.
Something you said is so true because it's important. People tend to forget. We see, especially since 2020, I guess we've had more awareness in it. We pay more attention to stolen lives, right? And we just, oh my goodness, that's so sad. And then people go about their day. Well, guess what? When it happens to you, you want people to be aware. You want people to know. You want your son or your daughter or your kids or your mother or your niece, whoever's life to matter. Well, guess what? We all need to stand together because one is affected. We're all affected. We all kin. We all family. We're all human beings. And at the end of the day, we all need to be holding these people accountable together. Unity and community is what's going to get us through.
Yes.
Like Timo said, they are all our children. All our children.
Right.
Exactly.
It takes a village.
Right. It takes an army, a village. Shoot. It takes a lot. I know just for my one son, he's crazy. He'll fly like off the couch and go crazy. I couldn't imagine having a young, how do you tell your kids not to run from the police whenever they still shoot you if you don't run?
And the crazy thing is, I was that mother because I was a single parent. We would do drills like, Fred, if the police stop you, what do you do?
Right.
Put my hands on the steering wheel and I do not move until they tell me to move. Good job.
You adequately prepared your son and they still got you from behind.
Mhm.
And still
I
every single day.
prepared him, like, often. Often we would go through this. Often.
Wow.
And they still got my baby.
Wow.
And then when Avery Crump called me into the office to tell me that they was not going to charge the detective, my son's dad died 3 days later, had a heart attack.
Wow. A broken heart syndrome does exist, and stress definitely causes heart attacks.
Mhm.
Wow.
He had just sent me a message and was telling me I'm strong and he appreciate me and he just can't live without his son. And I was like, boy, you'll be fine. We
Right.
gonna get through this together. You know, he have phenomenal parents.
Right.
Even though he was in and out of his life, I still wouldn't talk bad about his
Right.
dad.
Of course.
Right.
And then to get the call less than an hour later that he's dead, like, what?
Wow.
So not only am I grieving my son, but now I'm grieving my son's dad.
Right. And
And
you're
when I
left to
see
deal with
my
this horrible
son,
situation.
they are buried right next to each other.
Wow. Forever together.
Forever together.
Wow. Oh, and I agree with T-Bone in qualified immunity. If we shoot somebody, we got to go to jail.
Right.
If you shoot somebody in Pennsylvania, there's no bail.
Right.
Period. Your ass is sitting there until you're sentenced. So we demand everybody, again, listeners on the live, on the restream tomorrow, hit up Avery Hill or Avery Crump, hit up the Davidson Police Department. The numbers are in the comments. We'll never grieve without accountability. 100%.
Really appreciate y'all. I really do.
It is our pleasure. I thank you so much, Miss Tanika, for coming on our show this evening. I'm so sorry, and I promise you from the bottom of my heart, we will shout your son's name from the mountaintops until he gets justice.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And I thank you for taking the time to talk to us. And if we can help you in any way, shape, or form, if you need those right to know requests, if I can help you with the autopsies,
yes, please.
If you need us to broadcast anything for you, please don't hesitate.
Thank you. I love you.
Yes. That's community, y'all. For real. Yeah. Freedom for all. Thank you so much, Jontel, for joining me this evening. I love you.
I love you. Thank you,
guys.
so
We
much.
got to keep doing this,
Yes.
together forever, just like, Fred and his father. And that's the only way we're going to get any change is to be together forever.
Yes, together.
I stand with you, Miss Tanika. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. This is the story of Fred Cox. I hope you was armed with knowledge, and I hope you guys raise hell tomorrow. Power to people, man. Stand together, love your neighbor, meditate, elevate. I'm not even going to say what I was gonna say because I'm
celebrate, liberate. You already
yes,
know.
baby. Thank you, partner. I'm your girl, Meg, and this is Freedom for All. I hope you all have a good evening.
Be well, be blessed.